So, hi everyone, my name is Federico, and this is Cuttle's weekly live stream. And recently on the Facebook group, there have been a few people asking how to do bulk production on their templates or how to optimize for their cuts. And this is something I covered in a previous live stream, number 13. But I thought I could do a better job at explaining it, and I could add the next sort of step or like the next idea on how to do it, because I only covered like a small version of it last time. So the goal is to get to a point like this example I have right here, where you can type a list of names, like on the side here, like my name here, and then you can choose like a number of columns and rows, something like that. And then you can add more names if you want, because I think this question came from someone who was trying to make like some name cards and was trying to produce them kind of like in bulk and wanted to optimize for like the size of the sheet on the laser cutter. So I think using this kind of tiled situation, it's very good for that kind of thing. So I want to get to something like this at the end, but I'm going to explain some things along the way. So let me start with a blank project, and I'm going to call this one name tags. So I think the first thing I need to explain is that we need a component that works in a certain way. So let's create that component. So I'm going to do something simple. I want to do like a name tag. So I'm going to grab a rectangle, and let's make that rectangle 3 inches by 2 inches. And then let's round the corners to make it nice. So yeah, this is not necessarily anything new. I'm gonna make this cut red. And what I want is a sort of name tag that has a name in the middle, and then the size of the name always adjusts to be inside of that rectangle. So I'm gonna use our famous fit text. So I'm gonna search for fit. I'm gonna place it right on the center. And I'm going to size it just the same as the name tag. So 3 by 2. But then I actually want to have some like margin. So I'm going to kind of inset it a little bit by changing the size of that box to, instead of 3, let's subtract like 0.2. And same from the height. Subtract 0.2. I'm just dragging it until I get to 1.8. So that creates kind of like a margin, so the name always fits inside. And let's type a name. And so as you can see, regardless of the length of the name, it's going to resize to always fit inside of that box. And let's choose a font that kind of makes sense. I kind of like this Love Heart, yeah. This particular font is only uppercase, so it's always going to be uppercase. So that's kind of like an added benefit. So let's change the color to pink, assuming that we're going to just score that to make it fast. So I'm going to call this component the name tag, and so what I want this component is to be sort of reusable. So I want to be able to drag multiple versions of it and change the name. So in order to do that, I need to extract the text as a parameter. So I can click on the 3 dots. And then there are 2 options, project parameter and component parameter. This is important here, is that we want to extract it as a component parameter. And so it got extracted here as text. I'm just going to call it, let's call it name on tag to be like very specific. And so when it is a component parameter, what that allows me to do is, if I start another canvas over here, every time I drag the name tag component that I just created, it's going to let me have like variations on it. So if I click on this one, you'll see that I get this parameter here. And then if I click on this one, I get a different parameter. I mean, I get the same parameter, but I can actually sort of customize versions of that component. So that's that's sort of to explain how component parameters work. They allow you to like sort of drag different kind of instances of that component that you created, and each instance can have like a variation on that particular thing. So we need a component like that. So now let me explain. I'm going to try and explain this relatively slowly. Whenever you drag one of these, we get this parameter that we call name on tag. And the version that I explained before was using that auto layout. And so let me explain that one relatively quick. What we want to get to is to be able to have a list of names. So I'm going to create a new parameter, and I'm going to call it the names. And this parameter needs to be a parameter type text, because we're going to be typing text on it. And so my goal is to be able to type something like a name, another, press enter, then have another name, and then press enter, and then have another name. And I want those to kind of get sort of inserted into the instances of the name tag that I drag. And so in order to do that, I need to sort of split it. So if I were to just, for example, if I select this one and I go to name on tag, and I need to edit the expression, if I type names here, you'll see that it just kind of inserts all of the ones that I typed. And if I keep on typing, it's going to keep on inserting those. So I need to sort of separate them in some way. So to separate them, I'm going to, this isn't strictly necessary, but I'm going to create another parameter that makes us kind of see what it looks like. So let's create a parameter here, and I'm going to call it look at. And I wanted to say look at, and I'm going to insert this one right here. This isn't necessary again, but like I'm just going to do it to see what it looks like. So notice that like whenever I type this here, that then what gets inserted into the tag here is this this text that has like some funny things going on. So it has this like \n, and so that stands for the every time you press enter, that gets inserted. So let's look at it again. So I can type Federico. So you see it just looks like that. If I press enter, then that character gets inserted in there. And if I type another name, you'll see that immediately after that character is the name that are inserted. So that means we have a way to recognize every time we press enter. And then we can use a sort of built-in function that lets us use something that we choose to create a list. So how we create that list is, I'm going to show you, I'm going to create another parameter, and I'm going to call it the names list. Again, this is not necessary when you're doing it, but I want to explain it very carefully because maybe it helps you troubleshoot when you're trying to do these. So I want to take the names. So I'm going to type names again. So it's pretty much the same thing. And I want to split it. So I can type dot split and then parentheses. And so right now it's not splitting it, but if I add that character, the \n, you'll see that now I have a list. The way a list is expressed in this environment is that it's between brackets. So now it's split between Federico and Shiro because I'm using this character as the sort of like breaking point. And I can open it here, and you can see that it looks like a list. And if I keep on adding things here, it gets on being separated as a list. So this is kind of like the magic thing that we're doing. It's just we're making a list that then we can use to insert into a different place. By the way, the character doesn't have to be a \. It could be like any character that you choose. And I'm just saying this because it might be useful for someone that, say, doesn't want to separate it by pressing enter, but maybe they want to separate it by commas. So for example, if I were to type something like Federico separated by comma, then I can actually say that the way in which I want to split things is by a comma. So if I add it here, you'll see how now I also get a list because I chose the separator. We'll probably get back to this, but I wanted to throw that in there. So let's go back to the first version. I think this is the one that most people use. So I want to go back to splitting it by using the new line. All right. So the way I did it before was by doing the auto layout. And with the auto layout, the way that one works is like this. So I can go to do auto layout. I can grab that component. I can place it right there. Then I need to, with auto layout, the way it works is that here I type the component names. So for example, if I were to type name tag, and then press play, it's going to add a name tag with the default name that we added. And if I do comma and do another name tag, I get another one. And so the thing I want to do, here is sort of insert the elements of the list into these name tags. And so we cannot know that we can change what goes into the name tag parameter by doing the following. It's kind of a little garbled, but I'm going to type it. So I need to type parentheses, then curly brackets. And I remember that, let me check, I called this name on tag. So let's go back to auto layout. And so the parameter is called name on tag. And I need to type it exactly how I typed it before. And so I can say, hey, in that name on tag, insert this name. And so if I press play again, did things work? Did I break it? Name on tag. I need to type it right. Right. So it inserts this name on tag right there. And so if I want another one, I can type the same kind of situation I did before, name on tag. And then I can type another one. And let's see if that works. Okay, so that works. So the fancy expression now to say, hey, I have a list and I want you to take that list and insert it into all the different ones looks like this. Let me delete it. And so this is the one where like you don't necessarily know, need to know exactly how it works, but you can like reuse it. So I can say, hey, the names of list, map it onto the following. So this is going to look familiar. I'm going to say the name on tag, and I'm going to use this kind of funky expression. But then this part is going to look exactly the same as I just did before. So I have the parentheses, I have the curly brackets, and I want to say name on tag again. So what this one is doing specifically is that it's essentially creating, one version of these per every, it creates one for Federico, it puts it here. It creates one for Irma, it puts it here. It creates one for Carl and puts it here. And that's the output that we get. And regardless of how many we type, it keeps on doing that. So this is half of the stream, but it got me to this point where it's the same. I was using the auto layout before. And this might work for you, but this one doesn't necessarily allows us an easy way to structure it. With auto layout, you can do the thing where you create this doesn't allow us to structure it nicely tiled. So this might get you where you want to go, but I want to get to the point where I had in this example where I actually tiled my names like so. So let's do that one. So I'm going to create another component here, and I'm just going to call it tiled. I suppose my first component was called auto layout. It's gonna, yeah. But now let's do the tiled version. So yeah, let me try and explain this one. So with the tiled version, what I want to do is use that same name tag, drag it into the center, and then I want to use one of the repeat modifiers. I'm gonna use the linear repeat just to because it's a little simpler to understand at the beginning. So I'm gonna set linear repeat. So then the displacement needs to be close to the size of the tag. So that was like 3 inches. And then I have a lot. So I have 6 of them. Let's make it 3. And so this one is simply repeating the same thing. So if I change the name here, then all of them are the same. But the repeats have this kind of extra fancy thing that is called customize each repetition. So if I check that, almost nothing changes except look that I get this this new thing over here to play with. It calls it rep. And then it creates a number that is based on the number of repetitions. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's a total of 3, starting the count at 0. If I increase the number of repetitions, you'll see how the numbers of the rep change right there. So the whole point is that I can use this rep variable or and place it somewhere where I want it. And that one is always going to replace things. So the simplest way in which I can use it here is to go to the name tag. And instead of the name, for example, I can edit the expression and type rep. And so now you can see how things changed, because each one of the name tags, it's being replaced with that rep variable. So 0 gets placed on that one, 1 gets placed on that one, 2 gets placed on that one. And if I were to add anything else, like, you know, if I make more, then 3 gets placed on that one, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of like the simpler way to understand these repetitions. So now that I know that kind of piece of the puzzle, I can use it to take the names and place them in there. So I'm gonna do something similar to what I did before. I'm gonna create a list. So names list, did I call it? Names list. And I'm gonna go ahead and split these names again. So I'm gonna take names, I'm gonna split it. I'm gonna split it by something specific. It needs to be inside of, oh, check this out. If I select nothing, it's gonna create a long list that contains all the characters. But I wanna split it specifically by this character that is the new line. I did it wrong. It's this one, backslash. All right. So now my list looks more reasonable. You know, each name got put into a list. And so you can see that each element of the list has a number attached to it. So the first element of the list is the 0, the second on the list is the 1, and so on and so forth. So there is a way in which I can reference the numbers of the list by their index. So funny thing with the linear repeat is you can actually change the name of rep to whatever you want. I'm going to call it the index. So the way that index works is that, for example, if I have a separate name tag and I want to reference one of these specific ones, let's say I want to reference Irma, I want to place it here. The way in which I can do that is I can type something like this. I can type, hey, the names list. Now it put all the things in the names list, but I wanna say, hey, take the number 1. So that's Irma. Or I can say, hey, take the number 2, and that's Carl. And so I can reference the items of the list by their number, their index number, say. So that's what I want to now insert into my linear repeat. So let's go back to that. So instead of being just 0, 1, and 2, I want what goes there, the name tag, the name on tag, to be this list. So names list. If I type names list, it puts all the names in there. But I want it to be specifically, if I say like 1, then all of them are 1. If I say 2, all of them are 2. But if I say index, which is, if I say index or rep, whatever name you have chosen, what it's going to do is it's going to take this index. And so this one gets 0, and 0 is Federico. This one gets 1, and 1 is Irma, and so on and so forth. So this is how I just use the repeat, the linear repeat, to like take the list of names, separated by the character that I chose, and then if I keep on tapping names, and then I increase the numbers of the repetitions of the repeat, then those names are going to be inserted there. What happens with this method is that if you keep increasing the repetitions and it finds nothing, then it just doesn't replace it with anything. There are kind of nice ways to deal with that, but like for now, let's finish it by doing the tiled. So I guess this was just the linear. I can change this one to linear, because it was kind of easier to explain. But now let me try and explain how to do the tile. So I'm intentionally repeating steps just so it maybe makes more sense. So let's do it again. I'm gonna place the name tag. Instead of the linear, I'm gonna try the one called tiled repeat. I want to set that spacing to something that is like reasonable, meaning things are spaced correctly. So anyway, this one is 3 and this one is 2. I knew that. And so similarly to what I did before, I can check the tile repeat, check the customize each repetition, which created that rep variable. Now I have a ton. I have 16 because it's it's 4 by 4, because say 4 columns, or any columns by the number of rows. And I can see how things are numbered because I can go to name on tag, the specific one, and I can edit the expression and put rep in there by the repetition number. And you can see how now it gets number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I have a total of 12 repetitions. So here's my, and I can actually go ahead and insert the items of that list in there. So I'm going to create that parameter that splits things. So I'm going to call it the names list, or list of names. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say, hey, take that names and then split it, or make a list and split it using specifically that character. So I get my list. There it is. And so now on the name tag, I can use that list again. So the names list. Again, I just put all the names on the list. But I can reference it specifically by the index number, by the rep. So I need to type brackets, and then I'm going to type rep. So now you can see how this one like places each name into a new tag, specifically in this particular order. Like it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I type a sixth one, it's going to be getting there. And it's going to continue doing it. I think one question that someone had at some point is, how do I change the numbering to something that instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to just go back to rep. And so check this out. This one is named 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can change the ordering there if I go to tile repeat. another way to move the displacement instead of using these numbers right down here is by using this little handle. So the handle kind of changes the displacement. So one easy way to understand that is to say like, hey, what if I like swap this one over here and this one over here? So you'll see that by swapping those two, it's kind of like a visual way of making it 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then now that I just did it visually, I can go back here and change the numbers. So I wanted that one to be 3 and that one to be 2. Anyway, just in case that comes up, if that makes more sense to your brain. And let's go back to using this names list. And I want to reference that rep. There we go. I did it in this kind of fashion where I separated the names list into a different parameter because I think it's a little easier to troubleshoot or to see what's going on, because you can like sort of visually confirm that this is what you want your list to look like. I think in other examples we've used before, we just added this split right as a chunk of text in the auto layout, which is a way of doing it, but like it doesn't let you kind of like troubleshoot it and see it right there. So anyway, that's the way I did it. You might see it a little different in other examples. And the last kind of element I wanted to add here is that for the tile repeat, I can extract the number of repetitions as a parameter. So I'm going to extract it as let's extract a component parameter. And then this one as well, extract as a component parameter. And I can rename those in a way that so this one is the columns. I can see them increasing left to right. I call it the columns. And this one is the rows. I can increase them top to bottom. And then if I created it as a, if I add it on the README as a component, this tiled one, now I get to choose kind of the number of rows and columns, and I get the preview down here of how big the thing is. So if I keep on adding any more names, then I need to increase the rows and columns. And I guess one final detail I wanted to mention is that like I don't necessarily want to see this name list business here all the time. So I can actually go here and hide it. So if I select it, if I click on the 3 dots, there's an option called hide parameter. So I just kind of graze it out on the on this view. And so on the README or on the simplified view, it doesn't appear right there. So I don't have to see it. It's kind of like an intermediate step. So here we go. We have number of rows, number of columns. I suppose if I were to cut these on my laser cutter, there would be a lot of repeated cuts, like where these two are lining up. And one cool trick that you can do if the lines are perfectly lined up, just to show you the end here, let's open the Cuttle editor. Yeah, keep the changes. Is that you could select these and apply this modifier called, the modifier is called remove overlaps. It's down here at the bottom. So we want to apply that one. And so that one is going to remove all the lines where these are touching. So that might be a really fast way for cutting this particular file. That was my last tip. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. All right. Bye.